Hi, I'm Ash from 3DFluff. This is going to be a nice quick introduction for all of you new After Effects guys who want to dive straight into Cinema 4D and don't want to go through hours and hours tutorials or reading hundreds of pages of manual. So let's dive straight in. First of all, navigation. The easiest way to navigate is with the 1, 2 and 3 keys on your main keyboard. So not the numeric keypad, it's got to be on the main keyboard. Just very quickly though, to make sure we have something to look at and actually navigate around, if you could click on the cube icon, just so we get a nice little cube. Now, number 1 is just like the spacebar in After Effects. Just hold the key down, I'm holding down number 1 now, and click and drag your mouse. You'll pan. Up, down, left, right, straight forward. Number 2 is for zooming, or if you want to be technically correct, dollying. Just hold down number 2, click and drag, and it will zoom in and out on your object. Keep in mind it does zoom to where you click. So if I get the top left corner of this, I will zoom over there. If I get the bottom right corner, I'll zoom down there instead. Just watch where your mouse is before you click and drag. And number 3 is rotation. Hold down 3, click and drag, you'll spin around. Again, do watch where your mouse is because that will be your pivot point. I can pivot here. I can pivot over here, but generally, again, up, down, left, right, spin around your scene. So 1, 2 and 3. Now at some point you're going to get lost, especially when you're first starting out. So don't worry, don't panic. There's a couple of ways of getting your object back. Keep in mind, this big 3D world we have here, it's practically infinite. I can zoom out and zoom out and zoom out and do this forever and ever and ever and ever. It never really stops. So yes, you can get lost in the infinite 3D world. Or hey, maybe you just lose your object off the side of the screen. Oh no, where's it gone? Press H. H frames everything. It's not the default view, but it will frame everything you have in your project. If you like the absolute default view for any reason, if you really screw up your camera in unimaginable ways, then go to your view menu and look for frame default. That will get you back right where you started. So if you really churn up your camera, I'm not going to show you how to do this just yet, but if you manage to roll your camera to the side and get some obscene fisheye lens on it, which just messes things up, H will frame it, but it will keep those settings. So frame default gets you back to the sensible place. Okay, now manipulating objects. Take a look in the top left corner. These 3 yellow buttons. Now I'm just going to quickly say up front, do not click this icon. Don't do it. In most Adobe applications, the arrow tool, the sort of simple arrow tool, is a general selection, moving, manipulation. It's sort of a default mode, if you like. This is not the same in Cinema. In Cinema, this is quite a specific tool for selecting large swathes of objects. So if you ever get stuck in some tool and you just want to get back to the defaults, Cinema's default mode, if you like, is the movement tool. Use this one here. Don't click on the arrow unless you want to use it for a particular reason. So anyway, these 3 yellow icons here, these are your move, scale and rotate keys. You might notice this 4th one here, but that's just a list of recently used tools. Anyway, using these tools, just because it can catch a few people out, if I get the move tool, so long as my object is highlighted either in the 3D view here or selected in my list of objects up on the top right, let me just hide that video window if it's in the way. So long as either of these are selected, you can move the object. You do not have to click on the object though. If I click and drag in this big blank space, it moves. You do not have to click on the object. You can if you want, but it doesn't really make any difference. So don't spend ages trying to click in the center, trying to click on the object. Just so long as it's highlighted, click and drag, it will move with your mouse. But the same goes for scaling. And again, Adobe users, do not hold down Shift. I know it's ingrained in your brain, but do not hold down Shift to get uniform scaling. Unless you tell Cinema otherwise, all scaling is always uniform. Do not hold down shift. That does something completely different. It makes your object jump in big lumpy chunks like this. It's quantizing. So don't hold down shift to try and scale uniformly. Just click and drag. It is uniform. You can get ununiform scaling by clicking on these colored bands here, or clicking on these little orange handles down there, but we'll probably get into that a little bit later. And again, third one, rotation. So click and drag and your object will freely tumble around. Now this does make a bit of difference where you click. Take a close look at this just for a moment. Do you see this circle here? If you click anywhere inside the circle, your object will freely tumble around. If you click outside the circle, so anywhere around here, it's a bit like turning a dial on a screen. I can click and it won't freely tumble around. If I move my mouse over the object, nothing happens. It's as if I'm turning a dial facing me. This is mostly useful when you're looking at things top down or face on, just so that you can turn them perfectly in one direction. And the coloured bands, the arrows, in case you hadn't figured that out, you would have pretty soon anyway, you can click on these coloured bands to limit the rotation in one plane, one direction. Same with the movement tool. Click on the coloured arrows and you can lock the direction, lock the movement in one particular direction. Okay. Let me quickly show you the other view. Now, those of you with a decent mouse, so anyone using the default Magic Mouse, that horrible monstrosity, please go get a decent mouse. You're really not doing yourself any favours. But for anyone with a real middle mouse button, ooh, look, 3 buttons. If you click your middle mouse button, you get the 4 views. If you want to get all technical, this is called the orthogonal view, where you can see a top-down, a front view, and a side view. If you're lacking this middle mouse button, as I know a lot of you will be, you've got a few choices. You can either, let me just go back to the main view, you can either hit this little teeny tiny icon in the corner over here. That does the same thing. And notice each of these views has their own one, so I can expand the top view up to full. I can expand the front view, and so on and so on. Or if you prefer, you can use your F keys. Now again, for the Mac users, you will have to make sure you've either enabled the F key so they don't do stupid stuff like changing the volume, or hold down the function key, the little FN key, wherever that's hiding on your keyboard. But F1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's another way of getting to all these different views. But my recommendation is, if you've got one, enable your middle mouse button, because it makes it very, very fast to navigate around your project if you've got a third button. Okay, let's quickly skim over these. These aren't the most interesting things in the world. They just let you lock off different directions. But hey, we can mostly do that just by clicking on coloured arrows. So they're a little bit redundant. You will use them one day, but don't worry about them now. These are your render buttons. This first one here is a quick test render. It only renders the still image you have right now into your 3D view. So if you hit that one, my rough 3D view here is replaced with a nice high quality one. This is sort of a render to the RAM player, if you like. It's sort of a quick temporary rendering of your project. The middle one, this is your final export. This is the last, well, if you're using the Cineware plugin, you'll probably do the rendering over there. But you can render from Cinema as well, and this is Cinema's render button, if you like. It will open up a whole new window. It will render it to the settings, it will save it, yada, yada, yada. Again, we'll come back to all this, just close that window down for now. To get out of this render view, by the way, just do something. Click, drag, anything you like. Just do something and it goes. And the third one, this is your render settings. It's sort of like the project settings, but not quite. This is where you choose resolutions, sizes, render quality, anti-aliasing for the edges and such. This big cluster of sort of lavender coloured icons over on the top right, these are most of your objects. These are the things you can add into your project. Now, keep in mind, I'm running the full studio version here, so there will be a couple of things I have that you won't. But if you're missing something, get your checkbook out and go buy a full copy. Otherwise, enjoy. Objects, right, let's give you a quick rundown, because this is most of the stuff you're going to be making. The blue icon, primitive shapes, cubes, cylinders, spheres, planes, little stick men, just basic pieces of geometry. If you can make the object you want by just shoving this stuff together, great, go for it. You want to make a rocket? Cone for the end? Cylinder for the body? I could just move this cone piece upwards. There you go. I've modelled myself a nice rocket. Go send it over to After Effects, hit render. You've got your first 3D model. Congratulations. But as I say, if you can make your object by just boshing together basic shapes, great, go for it. You can actually get quite far just with basic primitive shapes. Let's quickly take a look down in the corner. So this will be a list of all your objects, and this is the settings for them. This is your sort of attributes, your control panel, if you like. So whatever I click on, I will see the settings for that particular object. So, again, just to guide you, I'm not going to dive in too deeply. Look at the third tab. With every single object you add, all of this stuff up here, always go straight for the third tab. The first two are quite boring. The first one just lets you rename it and hide the object, but that's not really important because you can do that anyway. If you double click an object, that lets you rename it. If you want to hide an object, you've got this little checkbox here. You can hide an object this way. So the first tab for most objects is generally a little bit boring. And to be honest, the same goes for the second tab as well. You will eventually do things here, but just for simplicity's sake, the second tab of everything is the coordinates. But you've got them down at the bottom anyway. There are some differences between them, but for the most part, don't worry about the coordinates tab. So for this reason, on everything you do, every object, start on the third page. This is where the useful settings always begin. So for my cone, for example, let's zoom in here. On my cone, I can choose the radius at the bottom of the object. Just type in another number, change the size. I'm not going to delve into every setting. A lot of this stuff is quite obvious, the radius, the height, and so on. But I'm going to show you some nice little nifty bits. First of all of these numbers are calculators. If I decide I want one of my numbers to be half as much, just type in divided by 2 at the end. And it'll do it. Cineware will work out anything. And that includes conversions. So, hey, if you're over in America and you want some inches and feet, I can type in a size of 21 inches. Just type in IN. And it'll convert it between metric and imperial. So just type in what you want and you'll get it. But it'll go as complicated as you like. I could say, right, yeah, you know that radius on the cone? Yeah, it's going to be pi divided by the results of 2 times 43, close brackets. You can type in anything you like and Cineware will go through and work it all out for you. Okay, slightly useless size there. Let's just make it a bit bigger, which leads me on to something else. If you just want to throw in a number, if you don't give a crap about specific sizes, you just want to say bigger, smaller, watch this very carefully. You see these 2 arrows here, up and down? Yes, they do the obvious thing. They will make a number go larger. They will make a number go smaller. But the thing a lot of people will miss is if you click your mouse on either of the arrows and then immediately drag your mouse up or down, watch what happens. It creates a big virtual, it creates a big virtual slider. Just click on the arrows, drag your mouse up and down, and it'll just rapidly throw in numbers to increase it or knock numbers off to shrink it. So if you're not bothered by the exact numbers, just ram a number in there, throw a number in there, chuck a number in here, and it's a nice quick way of working. Again, all the rest, I'm just going to leave you to play around with those. Caps let you change the top and bottom. Slice lets you slice the object so you can choose how far around it goes. You'll find fairly similar settings for a lot of objects in Cinema. So there you go, there's your basic objects. Most things do what the icon shows you. Now the other bit, probably the one thing you're all going to want to do the most. Titles, 3D text. Who doesn't love a bit of 3D text? This is where I get to show you Cinema's hierarchy. Okay, next icon here. This is the splines, the paths, the beziers. You might know them by a lot of different names, but we call them splines. They're just outlines, like Illustrator files. Grab grab a spline object, like a flower, for example, and hey, you've got this little thin wire. Now, just keep in mind, this is not an object. It's not a solid object, rather. If I hit render, there's nothing there. It's nothing solid. It's just a guide. We need to do something with this guide to turn it into a solid object. So a common spline object you will come across, go back into the menu, is a text object. Here's a nice lovely bit of text. 3D fluff. Okay, there's my text. I want it to be a 3D object. How do I do this? Well, go over to your next icon here. These green objects. These are your NURBs. NURBs predominantly, there's a couple of odd ones out, but they predominantly take a spline object and turn it into a 3D item. So, if I take my 3D fluff spline and I drop it inside an extrude NURBs, here's where the hierarchy comes in. Watch this. These are two individual elements. They are unrelated to each other until I link them. Put the text inside the extrude NURBs. Now watch your mouse pointer. It'll either point left or it'll point downwards. When it points down, it's telling you this is going to go inside the object. If it points left, it's just going to go next to it, which will have no impact of any sort. So put your text spline, or any spline you like, your logo, whatever you fancy, put that inside the extrude NURBs. There you go, 3D object. I should point out, by the way, if you've got an Illustrator file you want to load into Cinema, open in Illustrator, save it out as a .ai file, just a normal Adobe Illustrator project. But when you save it down as Illustrator version 8. If you do that, you can simply open that file open it in Cinema, and put that inside your extrude NURBs. But hey, there's your quick bit of 3D text. It's now a real object. If I hit render, it will actually render. There's a real object there. Just one tiny tip, especially for those loading in Illustrator files. When you load them in, sometimes, let me just mock up what you might get here. Sometimes you'll get a folder filled with lots and lots of different little elements. And you'll put these inside the extrude NURBs. Let's just take those out. If I hold down Shift and I grab all these little spline pieces, this is something you might get when you load an Illustrator file. If I put these inside the extrude NURBs, only one of them extrudes. The default behavior for the extrude NURBs is to only extrude the first thing it finds, which in this case is the number 3. The rest of it is not being extruded. Save yourself a big headache. Choose your extrude NURBs and turn on hierarchical. Yes, it's a horrible word. Try saying it when you're drunk. But if you turn this on, it does everything. Basically, it does everything in its hierarchy. It just saves you having to link objects together or merge them. Makes your life easier. But again, anyway, I'm going to leave you to explore the rest of that. I just want to give you a quick rundown. Lathe NURBs will spin things around in a circle, good for making vases and wine glasses. There you go, stuff like this. If you can draw the outline of this glass all the way around, up to the bottom, just draw half of it. Don't need to do the other side. Draw that half of a shape, put it in a lathe, and it will get spun around to make a solid object for you. That's the lathe. Sweep NURBs is great for making long swept shapes like cables and shooting stars. And again, the rest will have to wait for a longer video. I don't want to bore you too much. Next icon, just a bunch of utilities really. The bool is useful for cutting out shapes. You can just throw a couple of objects in there, like this for example. If I grab a cube and a sphere, I'm just going to make them overlap. So these two objects here, overlapping each other. If I put those inside the bool, grab the two objects, pop them inside. So this is where the whole hierarchy thing comes in. One object will take a big bite out of the other. So there you go. I've got my sphere and there's a big cube bite taken out of it. If you would prefer it the other way around, just swap the order. Just put the cube above the sphere instead. Switch them. And you'll now find you have it the other way around. Bit of a display glitch there. But otherwise, great, lovely. Okay, nothing massively important you need to know about here. And I think, to be honest, the free version you get with After Effects doesn't include a lot of these items. In fact, I'm not even sure if it includes the ball. So there's one reason to upgrade alone. And deformers. Again, I might have a lot more here than you're going to have. But deformers generally let you make simple changes to an object. Watch. If I grab a stickman and I take something like a bend deformer, these are like adjustment layers. You put them inside the object you want them to affect. So as a very basic rule of thumb, if an object is green, it goes at the top of the hierarchy. Put things inside it. These are like folders, essentially. If an object is purple, it's an adjustment layer. It's a deformer. It's something which is going to tweak an object you already have. So if I put that bend deformer inside the figure, it's applied. It's ready to go. All I've got to do is come down here, turn up the strength, and I can bend him left and right. I can swirl him around in a circle. But again, you've got quite a few. Bend, bulge, twist. There's plenty in there to be playing around with. But that will do. Now, these bits over here, these are your stage objects. These are things for setting up your scene. So let's just get a little stickman back. Hello, little stickman. These will let me add floors and skies and backgrounds, just generally setting up my project. You can get by perfectly fine without any of these. You know, a floor, well, you could just put a big flat surface there. And so on. So they're not vital at this point in time. Cameras, again, you can do without a camera. You don't strictly need a camera. As I'm moving myself around here, I'm moving a camera if you like. There's no camera object, but I'm looking through one. So if you would like to render this out, if that's the shot you want, great, leave it. You don't strictly need a camera. Again, come back, watch a later tutorial. I'll show you how you can use them. But we'll skip those for now because they're not strictly needed. And over here we have lights. You'll want to have lights. Again, I'm not going to dive into it in too much depth, so for sheer simplicity, don't use any of these just yet. Just stick with the normal lights. They're nice and easy. They're fairly idiot-proof. There's your light. Pick a colour. Pick a brightness. And if you would like some shadows, just turn on the shadow setting. Again, to make it nice and simple, nice and quick, go for a ray-traced shadow. They're not the nicest looking ones, but they're fairly straightforward. There's no settings to worry about. They're automatic. But once you've got a light, let's go for a hard shadow. Move it around, position the light where you like it, add another one, copy and paste the one you've already got, put some more lights over there, bring some forward, put some in the sky. You know, don't forget to light your scene. Don't leave it with this automatic flashlight. Otherwise it looks like a photograph taken with a flash on a camera. It's a bit boring. Okay, let's get rid of those. Now, the other bit you'll need to know, the other bit you'll want to know quite soon is materials, because currently everything is grey. Down here, this big blank area, double click. It creates a material. The settings for this material will appear over here on the right hand side, but I don't recommend you use these because all of the settings for the material are kind of squished into this little area. It's not the largest area for you to work with. Instead, double click the thumbnail you see down here and you'll get a new window appear. Nice. This is a nicer way. It is actually the exact same settings, but these ones are laid out and spaced out much more nicely than these ones are. So, again, quick rundown. Color. These are your channels. These are the different aspects of your material. we call them channels. So what color is it? How transparent? Is it illuminated? Is it reflective, and so on? So color. Two broad things you'll want to do are either choose a color. That's nice and straightforward enough. If you can't work an RGB slider, you're screwed. So choose a color, or if you want to put an image onto your object, well, down here, texture. Texture is the word we use to refer to images stuck on surfaces. On the right hand side of this bunch of gadgets and gizmos, we have this little icon with 3 dots. Click it. What have I got laying around on my desktop? Not much. I've got a picture of a finger. Choose a file. It will ask you, if you haven't set up a project, it'll ask you, do you want to copy it to where your project is stored? For now, just say no. Leave the files where they are. And there you go. Your image is now applied to your object. This little thumbnail you see in the corner, the thumbnails, the previews are always just stuck on a sphere. This is not the shape you're going to get. Don't worry about it. It's just to show you the shading and the shape of the object. Applying the material, drag the large thumbnail either from here or anywhere you find it. But just drag this onto your object. Boink. There we go. We now have this material on the surface. Do note, if you choose an image, it replaces the color sliders. So unless you start getting a bit more fancy, these color sliders don't actually do anything anymore. If you want to get rid of the image you've used, if you decide, oh no, I don't want an image, I just want a plain color, this little drop down here has a lot of stuff in it, but the bit at the top is called clear, and it'll blank it out for you. Back to yellow. But down the left-hand side here, these are all of your material settings. I'm just going to focus on the ones you'll probably want to know straight away. So color, the color of the object. This is where you put images to texture things. So if you want something to look like it's made of woods or it's made of brick, just find a nice picture of these objects and just stick them in those channels. Done. But the other ones you'll be interested in straight away are going to be luminance. Luminance allows you to make an object glow, makes it brighter, lit from within. Your laptop screen, your TV screen, your mobile phone screen. These are all luminance surfaces. They are a source of light themselves. So if you want something to be self-lit, turn on luminance. And again, give it a color or pop an image in there if it's going to be a TV screen. But yeah, luminance makes an object, I'm not going to say glow, but it makes it lit from within. Transparency. Tell you what, let's just get rid of this yellow color for a second. Okay, transparency. Turn this on. Duh, it goes transparent. The default setting is a bit like cling film, cellophane wrap for the Americans. It's just see-through. Now, the main thing about a see-through object, let's grab the glass again, slowly getting lower. The main thing about the glass surface is it needs to refract. It needs to bend light as it goes through the surface. Let's see how we can mess up with our webcam here. Things distort. House of fun. Things will distort and get larger and smaller and all the rest of it. You need to tell Cinema how much the transparent surface magnifies things. And this is called the refraction setting. If you would like to know what number you should type in here, grab a web browser, go to Wikipedia. I'm not on the internet. Okay, forget that. Anyway, go to Wikipedia, type in index of refraction, and you'll get this great big table full of values you can type in. Or make a note. There's probably only really 2 numbers you need to know. If you would like your transparent surface to look like it is a liquid, water, beer, cider, vodka, doesn't matter, they're all very similar. Type in 1.3. There we go, it now magnifies things. If you'd like your object to look solid, type in 1.5. There you go. So that's glass, that's plastic, transparent aluminium. Spot the reference. Yeah, just type in 1.3, 1.5. It's going to make it look like a solid surface or a liquid surface. Now, just a quick side note. For anyone who's going to say, oh, look at that, it's a lovely glass material. I know, I'm going to hit render to see what it looks like. Yeah, bit rubbish. If you're going to have any transparent or reflective surface, you need something for it to reflect. If you take a glass and you put it in space, it's going to look very boring because there's nothing to reflect in the surface. That's what we have here. If you would like your glass and shiny chrome and shiny gold surfaces to look nice, do this. In your list of scene objects, add a sky. Not this one. This one. The sky object is just a great big ball. It wraps itself around the scene. The idea is you're going to put a panoramic photograph on there. If you go to openfootage.net, and I'll just type that out for those who don't like trying to spell things. If you go to openfootage.net, you will find there is a category called HDR panoramas. Go there, grab one of the files, download it, and once you've downloaded it, make a new material, open it up, and I want you to put that image into the color channel, because what we're going to do is we're just going to color the sky. Okay, so it's a bit like the Truman Show. If you've seen the film, he gets to the end, it's about this guy who lives in this big virtual world, it's all a big fake, and he realizes all the sky and the clouds above him, it's just a massive painted picture. That's what we're making. Go to the color channel, hit that little button at the end, and grab one of these HDR files. That's the file you'll download. It'll be a HDRI panorama. So let's see, training stuff. I happen to have a few laying around here with me of kitchens, fairly famous one, at least fairly old one anyway. Grab one of these panorama pictures, HDR files, and I want you to pop that on the background. Now, this is a very low resolution one, so don't worry about all the blockiness, but if I look around, I'm inside this very low resolution kitchen. But the difference it makes, let me just do one final little tweak. If you want to stop your glass surfaces looking milky, turn off everything else except transparency. Get rid of the colour, and get rid of this specular thing down here we haven't really gotten to yet. But if I don't have a sky, and I hit render, nothing, absolutely nothing. There's nothing for it to reflect, it's just darkness. But if I do have a sky with one of those nice panorama images on, hit render again, ooh, the world of difference this makes. Big secret, well, this big tip I can give you, to get good looking glass, to get good looking metals, get a HDR panorama and place it onto a sky object. It makes a big difference when you render. Right, now we can continue from where we were. Anyway, transparency, yeah, choose a colour, choose a refraction. The rest of it, don't worry about it just yet. Reflection, pretty much the same. If you'd like a chrome object, hit render, and you'll see all the nice shiny chrome surfaces. Don't put pictures in here. It's a fairly common mistake. Do not add a picture to your reflection channel. It doesn't work. Just put the image on the sky like we did before. Boring, useful. Bump channel. Hey, we like this. Let's take a closer look at this guy. You see he's got a nice shiny head. You can add texture to things. If you like something like the roughness of wood grain or the roughness of a towel surface, just something you can feel with your fingertips. That's what a bump channel does. Turn it on and find a picture of something you would like. So if I open up my images and I go back to just a folder of textures I have laying around. In here, I've got an image of some bricks, for example. To show you that. There you go. Here's my bricks. If I put this image into my bump channel and hit render again, that image is now plastered over the surface. If I just put this on something a bit more basic, like a cube, for example. So you can put that same material on more than one object, that's fine. Get my little stick man, hello cube, hit render. It will embed that brick wall into your surface. So it's a nice, quick way of adding a lot of detail without having to actually model anything. So do use bump maps. They're very useful, make quite a bit of difference. And yeah, there's a strength slider at the top. Just keep in mind, 0 is in the middle and 100% is at the edge. So don't drag it left thinking you're turning it down, because you're actually just inverting what it does. But 0 is in the center. Anyway, okay, so blah, alpha channels, yeah, that's certainly useful. You've probably done this in After Effects before, where you use a sort of 2.5D system, so you sort of move your camera in and out to make it look a bit 3D. This is potentially our version. It's just making you see in here. I'm going to get a plane. I'm going to make a material. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a tree. Let's say I'm trying to make a whole forest. 3D trees are very slow to render. They're quite complicated. They'll slow things down. So a big cheat we all use is fakes, just flat pictures of trees. If I go to my color channel, if you like to grab some of these, go to cgtextures.com. Again, that is CG, as in computer graphics, textures.com. Here you will find loads and loads of nice, lovely images you can use as textures, including the one I'm about to show you in a minute, or the one I'm about to show you next. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick an image which has a transparency in it. Now this can be an embedded alpha, it can be a separate mask, it can just be a transparency, so if you open it in Photoshop you see the checkerboard behind the image. So long as it has some sort of transparency information, load the image into your color channel. So here I have a tree I've downloaded from that CG Textures website. But this only really causes it to make this solid flat surface. So I'm not going to be able to make a realistic forest of trees if they look like this. Now I could go around the edge and cut out the shape into the polygon surface, but why do we want to do that? Instead, because this has an embedded alpha channel and an embedded transparency, go down to your alpha, turn it on, and load in the same file into here, and it will pick out its transparency information. Let's go down to the tree. Ba-doink. There we go. So it sees that this is the black and white mask, this sort of embedded transparency information, and it now knows how to cut out the object. So if you'd like to make a forest of lots of trees, or just lots of flat objects in general, copy and paste, throw a few more trees in, shove them in the background, copy, paste, 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 fill it up with lots of trees. We like trees. And yeah, there you go. There's your very quick and dirty forest made of nothing but flat polygons. So it's, for us, again, this is a sort of 2.5D. It allows you to get some parallax. It allows you to zoom over them and sort of do a nice little flight movie, I guess. But you don't have to actually model a tree. You can just draw, well, just nick a picture of one. And the last bit, down at the bottom, you might have noticed me doing this a couple of times, but this specular channel, again, for simplicity's sake, turn it off. All it does is it adds this sort of sheen, this shine over a surface. Makes it look a bit rubbery. So if you'd like a rubbery, soft satin finish to an object, fine, leave it on. Have a play around with the width to choose how large it gets. And the height to choose how strong the highlight is going to be. But otherwise, if you don't want this sort of powder coating, this sort of rubberized plastic finish, you can just turn it off. Just get rid of it. Right, okay, for now, for a quick introduction into the sorts of places you should be playing around with, I think that will do. Sorry if I've rambled on. I hope it's been useful to you. Go check out some of my other videos. I'll be putting up some more stuff which hopefully will be of some more use and a bit more in depth. But yeah, hopefully this has been a nice quick intro into how to use Cinema. Go have fun. Go introduce some 3D work into your After Effects.